Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Bundesliga Show. We are now bringing back a mini-series that we recorded 3 of last season, back by popular demand. We've got our Derby Day dive-in series. It's back up and running, so we've obviously now going to record a good few of these and bring them out regarding some of the biggest and best derbies that happen all across Germany. So we're not really just going to stick to Bundesliga teams either. We are going to branch out a little bit and tell you about all the different unique derbies that happen within Germany and just give you basically a bit of an all-round knowledge of what makes them special, if they're new, if they're really old, or if they're really ferocious. So we'll get into it in a moment. Of course, we are this season in partnership with Bundesliga Boxes. So I've got my one of my old faithful Bundesliga tops on. So if you don't know about them, go check them out on Twitter. They are a authentic German t-shirt company. So they provide them in mystery German boxes, basically. So you get yourself a mystery German football t-shirt and many other goodies. So check them out on Twitter or go find their website. So, of course, brilliant company, and we're very happy to be in partnership with them this season. And a little bit of admin, as always. Please do give us a like if you like this particular video, or if you like this series, do let us know. They've been quite popular in the past, our Derby Day Dive-In. So let us know. Drop us a comment what you think about this particular derby that we're going to be doing today. And of course, please do click the subscribe button below and do click the bell icon so you don't miss out on any of these extra videos that we do that we're bringing to you. So less of the chat, and let's get straight into today's video. Its topic is indeed the Rhine Derby. So the Rhine Derby is played between Koln and Borussia Monchengladbach, two teams that are resident Bundesliga teams right at the moment. It's a very ferocious derby that has really kind of got going since a bit of a quiet start, I think, to get things started, basically. But what we'll do is we'll kind of go through a bit of a brief history about it. Mark will chat through that, the balance of power, their trophy cabinets, and kind of do a bit of a comparison, and then finish off with a few iconic matches that have happened between the two teams. So without further delay, Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about the brief history of these two fine teams and their big derby?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, this is first and foremost a geographical derby. Obviously, the two clubs are based in the North Rhine-Westphalen part of Germany, also known as the Rhineland in English, which is the most overpopulated area of Germany. And actually, not only these two clubs are based in that part of Germany, but also like a lot of Bundesliga teams as well. Obviously, the likes of teams that we already covered, like Schalke, who are based in Gelsenkirchen, and also Dortmund, of course. Like so many teams, Bielefeld, Mainz are also near the area. So many clubs are based in that kind of northwest, North Rhine-Westphalen, as they call it in German. Yeah, the clubs are only actually 28 miles or roughly 40 kilometers separate the city of Cologne and the slightly smaller city of Monchengladbach. Obviously, most people call them Gladbach, but we have to remember that the name of the city is Monchengladbach, to be precise. But yeah, I mean, as Rory said, the derby didn't get off to like a really, really spicy start at first. Actually, it took a little bit of time to get it going, really. And despite the fact that it was born out of a strong tradition with the local rivalry, it was only when a man known as the Godfather, Hennes Weisweiler, a great German name there,
Brilliant name.
He was a former Cologne player and coach, but he helped out Gladbach, which didn't go down particularly well with the Cologne fans, as usually it doesn't when a player or former coach kind of joins a rival team. And that kind of was the birth, really, of the fans taking more of a dislike to each other.
Yep.
Obviously, Cologne were cruising to their first ever Bundesliga title when actually Weisweiler took charge of then second division Gladbach, which was obviously the two teams were in very, very much different form to what most of their kind of history went like, because obviously Gladbach have, as we'll talk about a bit more, they probably are the bigger club out of the two, or at least the most successful. But yeah, I mean, he ended up building a foundation of what was one of Germany's premier clubs at that time, actually, for Cologne. So they actually started the better at this period of time. But yeah, actually, despite this good period of time under Hennes Veal, they obviously actually fell off a little bit as well, and they became quite an underachieving club, you could say, within the country of Germany, also known as the Billy Goats as well, which is a great nickname for Cologne. Yeah, I think one of the most obviously incidental moments as well came in 1977 when there was a title race between the two clubs as well, which ended up in Cologne winning on goal difference as well, which was like a massive moment. So the 1978 title did go to FC Cologne, with Gladbach just about finishing second, despite Gladbach incredibly beating Dortmund 12-0 in the season as well. But they still finished 3 goals short, which unfortunately for them led to Cologne being able to wrap up a 5-0 win over St. Pauli, the Hamburg-based club, which, yeah, gave them their title. So, yeah, obviously, whenever you have like a massive title race between two rivals, it always kind of spices up the derby a little bit. And that was the case with this Rhine Derby between Cologne and Gladbach. But, yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, I think obviously Gladbach enjoyed their glory days in the 70s, which we'll talk about a little bit more again. They had like a really, really good time in the 70s. But since then, both clubs have kind of, you could say, slightly underachieved a little bit, really. And both teams have mostly played in the Bundesliga over the last 20 years or so. But a few relegations specifically for Cologne have kind of like dampened the favour with Cologne. But obviously, I think they're in their 3rd straight season again now in the Bundesliga after spending a couple of years in the Zweite in the late 2010s. But yeah, obviously the two clubs now, as things stand at the moment, they're roughly like in a similar level towards the mid-table of the Bundesliga. So it's a good time for the rivalry to see who's going to kick on the best really now.
Indeed. Yeah, well, that perfectly leads us on to the next part of this rivalry and kind of looking a little bit about the kind of balance, the balance of power between the two teams. And Mark's already kind of started to elaborate on the theme or the timescales of which these two teams were at the heights of their powers. So, yeah, as mentioned, Koln really started off as a real kind of powerhouse of German football, and certainly out of the two teams were winning a lot more. Obviously a couple of titles, as mentioned, their most recent, which obviously feels like a long time ago now, that great title race and title win for Koln in 1977-78. And yeah, since that time, the balance of power has indeed shifted, as often it does with these kind of rivalries. Gladbach were brought into prominence, obviously getting themselves into the Bundesliga, obviously under the godfather, Hennes Weisweiler, who of course has, that's where the name comes from, the Billy Goat, the mascot, Hennes the Billy Goat, who FC Koln roll out every week, every home game anyway. And I think they're on to Hennes the 5th, maybe the 8th actually. their 8th mascot go. So he's well loved at the club there. So that's a nice little story as well. But yeah, the balance of power. So yeah, Gladbach probably enjoyed their most successful spell in between 2010-12, actually, where they had a real kind of hold over the derby. They won by kind of big score lines on a regular basis, 4-0, 5-1, 3-0 on a good few occasions. And statistically, that kind of led to more of an imbalance, really, with regards to the head-to-head sort of score lines. So Gladbach are on around 50 wins, give or take, across just over 90 meetings between the two teams, and Koln are in the mid-20s. So that obviously gives you a rough idea with around about 16, 17 draws. So that obviously gives you an idea that Gladbach pretty much, double the sort of wins that Koln have right now. Obviously, we've seen both teams right now are mid-table teams, aren't they? They can't quite get a grip of what they're going to be doing. Koln is starting to stabilize again, which is really great to see. They've made a much more concerted and kind of settled effort this season, and so they'll certainly be targeting a couple of Derby Day wins. Of course, they will. So yeah, right now it's probably quite even to say the teams on paper, isn't it? As we speak, both teams capable of brilliant performances and equally very imbalanced performances as well. Particularly this Monchengladbach side are very hot and cold, aren't they? So only time will tell to see who will get the next few notches on their belts with regards to the Derby Day spoils. There'll be brilliant atmospheres because they'll be buzzing about getting into the stadium again. Or, well, we hope so anyway, because of the situation around COVID, of course. Who knows where we are going to be. So we'll obviously have to keep our eyes on that. But yeah, that's just a little bit of a look at the kind of the balance of play between the two teams. So let's move on to the kind of next section as a part of this Derby Day dive-in. So Mark is going to talk us through both the teams' respective trophy cabinets.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, actually, both sides have been relatively successful as well. It has to be said. I mean, both sides are big clubs within Germany, as you say, especially Gladbach have got a real history, especially in the 70s, as I say, obviously under Jupp Heynckes. Some of you might know him as well. He was a player in that side, obviously went on to be a great coach as well, first with Gladbach and then with obviously Bayern Munich winning, and also Real Madrid as well. He was one of the absolute greats at Gladbach, and he kind of like masterminded a brilliant period in the 1970s for Gladbach, where they actually won the German title, the Bundesliga, 5 times in that period, in the 70s. And obviously Cologne also managed to win in 1978 as well, which was one of their 2 Bundesligas. But quite ironically, Gladbach haven't won the Bundesliga since 1977 and Köln since 1978, which, as I already mentioned earlier, was that great title race between the 2 rivals as well. So I think we can see that, the 70s was a great kind of era for both of these clubs, really. And it was like, this was that was the one season, really, where they were the 1977-78, where the Rhine Derby was literally like the crowning match of the Bundesliga that year. So you could see just the kind of level of this derby, really. At that time, this was like what nowadays is probably Dortmund, Bayern, the kind of El Clasico, Der Klassiker, really. The big game of Germany. Yeah, also, when it comes to cups, actually, though, Cologne are actually one ahead at the moment. Cologne have got 4 German DFB Pokals to Gladbach's 3. So, that's a bit of bragging rights for Cologne. So, obviously, despite the fact that Gladbach have been, without doubt, the more kind of decorated club, Cologne have still contributed their fair amount as well, with 2 Bundesligas and 4 cups as well. But I think probably the key is when it comes to the European stage. I mean, Gladbach have had far more success on the European stage than their rivals. Most famously, they became a European Cup runner-up as well in 1977, famously losing to Liverpool in that final. So again, it all came around that 70s period, when these 2 clubs were like really in their heyday. They were just firing on all cylinders, just 2 of the best teams in the Bundesliga. Obviously, Gladbach won the league in 77, but then Köln, gave them the 1-up and beat them to it in 78. Obviously, also Gladbach have also won 2 UEFA Cups as well, which is obviously the secondary competition, but it's still European silverware. It's still a big deal at the end of the day. The European trophy winners, Borussia Mönchengladbach, and that's a big thing at the end of the day. And I mean, even if you look now, I mean, Gladbach is still well supported all over Germany. Like, I'm based here in Nuremberg, and I know a few Gladbach fans as well, even though it's like pretty much the other side of the country. I think, I mean, the success that they had in the 70s specifically really kind of got them a massive fan base all over Germany. And I think they are, for me, they're one of the big 5-6 clubs in Germany. Potentially, some might even say one of the big 4, really, But I think obviously the last few years of less silverware has kind of affected them a little bit. And as for Cologne, yeah, I mean, obviously their success has very much dried up since the 70s, really. They've not done much at all in recent years. And obviously they've become more of a yo-yo team, really, which has obviously impacted on their success because, you know, if you're constantly going from the first league to the second league, you're not going to be able to get the best players and build that stability. So I think for them, if they want to be getting back amongst the trophies, they've got to first build stability. And who knows, under Stefan Baumgart, they seem to have found a good manager from what I can see. And maybe he is the man to kind of lead them back to glory, maybe in the near future.
Let's hope so. So to finish off or round up this derby, we're just going to have a quick look back at some iconic matches between the two teams. So I've got a couple of examples of some older and more recent ones, actually. So I'll start off, obviously, with the old games first. So back in the 70s. So yeah, same theme again. These big games happening in the 70s between the two teams. So in a little bit earlier, so in the early 70s, 1973, we had a game between the two teams in the DFB Cup final. So obviously massive game. It looks like it's kind of heading towards extra time or finishing near the end of the game. And player coach of Gladbach, Günther Netzer, decided to sub himself onto the pitch as a 90th minute sub. And he went on to score a brilliant solo goal, basically to win his club one more trophy before moving on to Real Madrid, actually. So it was it kind of kicked up quite a storm at the time because it looked like Netzer basically already had his mind on other things going over to Real Madrid, but decided to sub himself on to be the hero one last time and get one over on their dearest rivals. So that obviously was a really memorable game between the two teams. And just years later, again, mid-70s now we're talking about, and we look into the UEFA Cup semi-finals. So again, two-legged affair. The UEFA Cup again, so not the premier competition in Europe, but still a big, a big thing for these two local rivals being in a European Cup semi-final match. So it was a two-legged affair, which the first leg went the way of Gladbach as they won 3-1 away from home, and then would win 1-0 at home to then eventually go on to become the first winners of the competition, German winners, that is. So again, creating history and getting one over on their rivals. So, already the way I'm talking about these iconic matches, you can get the theme of Gladbach having one over on Koln on a number of occasions in these big iconic matches. Obviously, then we refer to that title race, which Koln are able to do them back one at least. So they managed to get themselves back in that regard. And so there's a couple of games that have a bit more recent memory and some great names to pick out here as well. So in February of 2015, it was the 82nd Rhine Derby between the two teams, and a certain younger Granit Xhaka was on the cards and scored an injury time winner for Monchengladbach. So obviously they went on to win the game. They're then celebrating in front of the Borussia Park crowd, but they were very quickly joined by a group of fans or figures, basically in what were white boiler suits. So they were basically, obviously, they were pitch invaders who had got over the barriers at Borussia Park from the visitor section and looked like they were going, basically moving towards the home fans. Of course, the Gladbach players got out of there as soon as possible, and all sorts of carnage would ensue. Again, kind of igniting that fire between the two teams, between the two sets of fans. Of course, the Koln fans scorn again by a late goal. Obviously, this derby is really well known for its late drama in games. Of certainly in Bundesliga match day, there have been a lot of late winners between the two teams. And then that moves me on to my last game of a memorable note that we've had in recent times. Now looking in April of 2017. So it was a brilliant game between the two teams. It was just a run of the mill Bundesliga game, which kind of went both ways. It's looking like a topsy turvy game as Yannick Vestergaard, another brilliant name coming out there, had put Gladbach ahead. However, Ibrahima Traore then got back into the game and it was level. A certain Anthony Modeste back on their cards, of course, now leading the line again for Koln, got them back into the game, only for Mr. Gladbach himself, Lars Stindl, to have the last say, and he scores a late winner in a topsy-turvy game, obviously finishing 3-2 to Gladbach. So I'm sorry for the Koln fans who have had to go through that, because they're basically four iconic games that have all gone the way of Gladbach. But of course, the rivalry in itself has had so many iconic matches and big moments, and there hopefully are many more of those games to come in ferocious atmospheres with full stadiums and fans going at it and really supporting their team for that geographical bit of pride. So that's pretty much it as far as what we can kind of tell you about the derby itself. Lots of rich history between these two teams, and they're really well known, established Bundesliga sides. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that little run through of the derby between Borussia, Monchengladbach and Koln, the Rhine Derby. So that will summarise things quite nicely. Hope you learned a little bit. So over to you, Mark. Do you want to close the show up as per usual?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously, if you enjoyed what you saw, then remember to check out our Twitter feed at Over the Bar FB and at Over the Bar Extra. So yeah, you can also watch our live shows on there as well, which we do every Monday and Thursday most weeks. Obviously, there could be a few exceptions, obviously like international weeks, and obviously with the winter break coming up. And in most cases, we do our review show on Mondays and then our fantasy football and prediction show on Thursdays. So look out for that. You can also watch on Twitter, but obviously it would definitely help us out a lot if you also like, commented, and subscribed on the YouTube as well, because that kind of helps us to keep track exactly how many people are kind of following us and keeping tabs with what we produce. Obviously, also remember to look out for the League One and League Two shows as well. They also do some really good stuff, I think, every Wednesday and Thursday. So pretty much you got 4 nights. You don't need to go out. You don't need to go out. You've got 4 nights of the week. You got live shows coming courtesy of Over the Bar. So, if you're into your German football and obviously your lower league football, then it's perfect for you guys. Remember also to check out our main site, which is otbfootball.net. So we also do written journalism as well. We're not only a YouTube-based channel. Remember, also check out our written articles too. We have like a massive range of written articles, like for everything from lower league Scottish football to French football to, I think we still do a few Bundesliga ones as well. Yeah, I mean, we've just got an endless supply, really, of interesting stuff from everything from throughout the football spectrum, really. So, yeah, we hope you enjoyed what you saw. Yeah, we've got some more of this stuff coming for you, these Derby Day dive-ins as well. So look out for them. And, yeah, see you next time.
Cheers, all.